All right, folks, welcome to the Alien Propulsion Technology Podcast. Special night tonight. We have the entire band online here for the podcast. So I'd like to introduce my fellow bandmates here. Our interview this evening is Sean Young, and he is the percussionist for the project. And then co-hosting with me and kind of, overseeing the moderation for the new podcast that we're taking on here is our guitar player, Rob LaRocca. How we doing tonight, man?
I'm awesome tonight.
I'm awesome too. I think so.
All right. Well, good job there, guys, because I asked you both the same question at the same time, and you did not overlap. So that was pretty impressive. So let's jump right into it here. Mr. Sean Young, obviously percussionist for Alien Propulsion Technology and a host full of other projects over a 32-year professional musician career. And some of those would include, of course, Mercy Kill, El Rusho, Without Front, and, of course, the one that started it for he and I together and pretty much got us to where we knew Rob LaRocca, and that was Fictional Tensions. So Sean, tell us a little bit about, being the drummer in Alien Propulsion Technology, a little bit different format than what we've done before in the past. What are the cool things about it, and what are some of the challenges?
One of the coolest things about it is that we're all old friends and we understand each other's taste. It all comes together. And it sounds like a totally different band than all of us have been in. It's just amazing that we've known each other as long as we have. And with the influences over the years, turned us what we are today. The challenges are some restraint on my part because, I'm basically a death metal, progressive metal drummer. It's nice to play a different style. It's still heavy as hell. I just love that after all these years, we could all come together and be at this point. It's just, it's awesome. It's totally awesome.
Right on, man. Well, thank you for conveying that to the listener. And certainly that was something we talked about in Rob's interview was the chemistry and, how we kind of came from the same background and, how that gives us some advantages when it comes to songwriting and performing, and especially doing things at a long distance. Rob, I believe you had a question for Sean.
Sorry. Yeah, I have a few questions. That took me unawares. I wasn't expecting you to say that. Well, yes, I do, actually. Thank you for reminding me. I did want to ask Sean to kind of, if he could go back and sort of describe the studio experience. What that was like, how you felt about Azimuth, some of the emotions that were going through your heads, the course of events, and just that whole thing. I really wanted to get your perspective on that.
Well, as all my fellow musicians know, I hate recording. I hate writing in the studio. And I don't think that'll ever change. But it's a challenge. And, sometimes you just have to do what you got to do. And I was really, really comfortable going into that studio, Azimuth. It's, even though the guys are kind of young and, of course we're old, but they were young guys. And, I tell you what, they had their shit together. They had my 9-piece kit mic'd up individually minutes. I didn't even get to drink a beer. I drank most of a beer, and they said, "Okay, ready for sound check." I'm like, really? And then the other challenge, during that recording was I play fast all the time and told to slow down. and I was told to slow down. And, you know, it's kind of frustrating, but if you listen to the recording, it's right. It's right on. And I can't wait again. Excuse my language.
All right. Well, we're back here. Now, Sean, you had mentioned the difficulty of writing in the studio. So, you know, for the listener, a lot of the times when these songs are written, you know, we put a lot of rehearsal time in before we go into record, more than one would think, sometimes months worth, even for a single song. And in the case of Gorilla Wolf, we indeed did do that. But I know that the previous album that you, Sean, recorded with Mercy Kill, the entire album was written in the studio. And strangely enough, when we went to record Gorilla Wolf for Alien Propulsion Technology, there was a small portion in there that we had to rewrite on the spot. So maybe convey to the listener the challenges of having to write an entire album in the studio on drums with Mercy Kill, The Order of War, and maybe how that paid some dividends to you and Alien Propulsion Technology when we went to record Gorilla Wolf.
Okay. Like I said before, it's a complete pain in the ass for a drummer. But I mean, you know, there's benefits from it. I mean, you get versatile. Your timing changes. You get used to listening to a click track for a couple months, and it's a challenge. It's a real challenge for especially a metal drummer to try and write drums to music that you're or maybe messed around with a little bit, and to do actually there was 2 songs on that album that weren't written in the studio. The rest were. And then going to APT, it was a challenge in the studio, timing and not listening to a click track myself for several I'd say 4 years, 5 years, getting used to click track again. And I mean, that, you know, that's a drummer's nightmare, but we got through it, and I'm a better drummer because of it. Thanks to you guys.
Nice. Are you still there, Larry?
Yes, I was really enjoyed Sean's response there, man. It was, you know, really, yeah, great answer.
Great answer.
But I was leaving the microphone to you, Mr. LaRocca.
Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot. I know one question that it comes to my mind immediately is, how did you develop your double bass technique? Because that stuff is crazy. The stuff that you played on Gorilla Wolf. How did you learn how to play like that?
You know, when I was a kid, I can tell you right now, when I was a kid, John Bonham, Alex Van Halen, I mean, all those guys played double bass, and nobody really knew that. But, you know, if you're a drummer and you listen close enough to the music, you know what they're doing with their feet. And it was just innovative to me as a kid. I finally saved enough money to buy my own drum kit for $500. And it was a Ludwig Rocker 2 kit, double bass, 9 toms. You know, it was a 9-piece. It wasn't 9 toms. It was 6 toms, but the same configuration I'm playing now. And it just, when you see a double bass kit on a stage at a concert when you're a teenager, it tells you, use your feet, use both your feet. I just always loved that. That shaped my sight for metal music. You know, when I was real young, as a really young drummer, the fastest I could play on my feet, I mean, it was like an orgasm. It's like, wow, can we do this even faster? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. I love using my feet, man. I really do. Good question.
What do you think about that, Larry?
Well, I'm very fortunate to have played with this man for 32 years now. So I kind of knew the answer. I guess if I was going to elaborate, I would say that for probably 2 years before Sean bought his first drum kit, we were good friends, and we were involved in a great scene. We listened to music back then. We weren't really playing it together, but he would air drum and air guitar to every song. That was part of the party. And we even, we made fun of him at times, because we're like, man, this guy just doesn't stop. But so he bought his first drum kit, and within a week, he could play all these songs. I mean, he'd already mentally mapped out the playing of it, and all he had to do was get the muscle memory part of it down. And he's a gifted athlete and in tremendous physical condition. So it just kind of went from there. So I guess if I was going to elaborate on anything, it'd be that. But it's been really neat to watch the progression, and no one attacks it harder. I'll say that, man. No one's ever going to tell Sean to play more. He kind of hit on it earlier. If anything, he's always getting asked to slow down or do less. But if you're ever wanted a guy to give 150% on your recording, then this is your man.
And I say the same with you, Larry. I played with you for 32, like you said, and we've been nothing but a machine, just a machine. And now Rob he's in the hunt, man. He's in the hunt, and he's becoming the machine himself.
Well, I like to try to do that, Hey, Sean, there was a question that I thought of too, that what Larry said, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that. So, the fact that you kind of learned how to play by doing air drums, how important is that? And did you basically know how to play your kit before you even got it?
I've been asked that question so many times. Yes. Air drumming is very important, especially as a preteen and a teenager. I mean, I was playing with shish kebabs and wooden spoons and driving my parents nuts. And that is probably the best therapy for an aspiring drummer, is to play air drums. Because I mean, in our age, we had music videos, and you could see what Alex Van Halen was doing. You could see what Neil Peart was doing. You could see it on video, and you could replicate that without a drum kit. And then when you get a drum kit, wow, so much easier to figure it out because you've already got it snapped in your brain. And that's another thing I need to say right now is we've lost 3 killer fucking drummers. Ginger Baker, he's like he's a little bit less than a god. And then we lost Neil Peart, of course, or Peart. You'd like to say Peart. My main influence. He's my main man. And Sean Reinert, man. It's just insane.
I'm going to interject here real quick. Sean, yes, it was Sean Reinert. And just earlier today, Rob LaRocca shared with me in a conversation a piece of information about recording drums at Morris Sound Studios, the legendary Morris Sound, and the engineer paid a huge compliment to Sean Reinert. Rob, would you care to share that with the listener? Is that too much info, or can you go into that?
Oh, I'd love to share that. Basically, we were recording, we were tracking stuff for Ancestor, and as you know, Brian Foster is a great drummer. He's excellent. No one's ever going to accuse him of not being good. What were you going to say, Sean? I'm sorry.
He's my brother, man. Awesome dude. Awesome drummer.
Two of the same type of drummers, very technical, awesome. No deficiencies there whatsoever. But we did extra takes, and we did punches, and we did all kinds of stuff, to try to get those drum tracks sounding as good as was possible. And I think Brian kind of, he was a little bit, he wanted to have it be, one performance all the way through. He probably would have even preferred it to have been live. But I know that, we were kind of, during a break, we were talking to Jim Morris. And Brian was like, man, we had to do all that stuff. And, Jim's like, don't worry. That's what we always do. That's what everybody does. And Brian and I kind of looked at each other, and we're like, are any of the death metal drummers, do they ever come in and play this stuff perfectly? Is there anyone who can do it? And he said, no, not really. and then, but he paused for a second. He kind of looked up and then back, and he was like, actually, one guy, Sean Reinert.
Oh.
Yep. That's a true story.
Rest in peace, brother, along with the rest of them, It's so sad. He was so young, man.
He was way too young. And the other thing, I want to say it again. When you listen to that song, when you listen to Gorilla Wolf, that's a performance. That's a live performance from one end of the song all the way through to the other one.
Yep.
No punches in that. That's right there. So
I can't wait to do it again, man. It's going to be awesome. APT is taking off, baby.
All right. Great exchange, gentlemen. And so staying on the alien propulsion technology topic, and for those of you that are new listeners out there, the first single is available. You can either purchase it at alienpropulsiontechnology.com, or you can listen to it on our YouTube channel. And if you do choose to subscribe to our YouTube channel, we will send you the free download, and you get it out right there. But moving forward, song number 2 for the Folklore Concept, which is to be the debut EP, is The Dream Witch, which has a very different feel from Gorilla Wolf and touches on some different influences. So, Sean, give us an idea. Tell us a little bit about The Dream Witch and what it means to you, and of course, some of the challenges of doing a song in that format, and tell us a little bit about Dream Witch. What can we expect?
I think you can expect a faster song. It's spread out very well, and I can't wait to hear some lyrics or some vocals. And I think it's going awesome so far, man. It's been a great experience, and we haven't had much time to work on a lot of this stuff because of Corona-19, whatever you want to call it. But we'll get back to it as soon as possible, and we'll get this one recorded soon.
Well, I know I have a question, but it's kind of off in sort of a separate direction. Do you have anything else that you wanted to get in, with Dream Witch, anything about that or something sort of related to it?
Well, I think that question's directed at me. I'm excited about the song personally. I like the fact that it harkens back to an older era, like Megadeth, Dokken, Dio kind of feel to it, and Sean had mentioned that you can expect it to be faster, but with this recording, we've actually stuck more to the metronome rough track that we got. So it's been really cool. We've kind of built a track that, although I wouldn't say it's necessarily faster. I don't know. I agree with Sean on that. We've found a way to fill it up good, tastefully, and make it a great track and put the signature APT to it, and still keep it in this realm that I really feel like the listener, from every age group, that enjoys, those bands that I mentioned. I really feel like we got one that's gonna to bring it back, man. I mean, it's just you can tell when you play it. There is a version with the vocals on it, and so we kind of know where they're gonna be. I'm pretty excited about the song. I really am. And so, Rob, go ahead and ask you the question, and then I do have one after that that I want to give to Sean. That's going to maybe send it even in another direction, but probably at this point we'll branch out a little bit.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Larry. I appreciate that, man. And the question I have for Sean, when I listen to your playing, I hear crazy double kicks, and then there are tom fills, and then there's some snare work. So what I wanted to know, and cymbals, of course, do you have is there a different drumming influence for each component of the drum kick? So to say, like, for kit, so like, if, for kicks, did you listen to one guy more specifically? Your tom fills kind of sound a little bit influenced by the Professor. You know what I'm saying there?
Yeah, I got you, man. That's a good question. There are a lot of drummers that I look up to as far as double bass goes. I mean, Dave Lombardo. There's so many. I just, and I'm not going to mention Licka at all. So don't expect that from Lars Ulrich. But I don't know, man. I'm a metalhead, and I'm a thrash head, and I'm a progressive head. I love Yes. I love Rush. The list goes on. I have a big, wide influence of drummers. Man, I take a little bit from everybody, not to mention many names, but, of course there's Bonham, Peart, Lombardo, Sean Reinert. I mean, geez, the list goes on, man. I just love diversity, and being left-handed, playing a right-handed kit, a little more diverse than most people because I'm playing backwards on a right-handed kit. It's a little more challenging, but I don't know, man. I just love it. I love it.
So, Sean, if I heard that correctly, did you say you are left-handed playing on a right-handed kit? Is that right? That's like
Yes,
Hendrix.
Exactly. My left hand is in the way every time I do a roll, which sucks, but when you're born that way, that's just the way you got to play.
If I may interject here, I would say, as his fellow bandmate in Ye Old rhythm section, that I think it offers a continuity. Playing left-handed on a right-hand kit like that, there is something about it that, where the emphasis is on a roll, it's like the opposite of where it would normally be, and it's so subtle that it took me a long time to figure out what was going on there. But like you said, it seems like the left hand's in the way, but it changes the emphasis on where the note is, and it gives us it's part of the signature, I feel, of the sound. It really is. And that's one of the unique secrets that very few people know about Sean Young on drums.
Yeah, and Justin Lynch, my brother, rest in peace. He tried to convince me, you're doing it wrong. I'm like, no, you just can't follow me. And he just accepted it, you know, over the years. He's like, man, you're doing it wrong. No, I'm not. I'm doing it exactly the way I want to do it. That was a challenge.
Well, I must say that Sean led us right into my next question. If it's okay if I go with this, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up. So, Sean, you were the percussionist for Fictional Tensions, and I was honored to be the bass player in the project, and this is how we met Rob LaRocca. But let's go back in time a little bit and tell us about Fictional Tensions and the experience there and the really cool thing of being in a band with Justin Lynch and he was a very experienced player. We were brand new, and how we were able to develop that continuity. Like you said, there were battles in there. It wasn't like it was just smooth sailing the whole time, but it led to this beautiful thing, which is turned out to be a lifetime experience. So if you could share your thoughts on that with the listener, please, sir.
Well, I met Justin when I was 11 years old. Or actually, I was 12. He was 11. And he could already play Van Halen Eruption on guitar. No problem. He could play Unchained. He could play Black Sabbath. He could play Led Zeppelin. And that dude, even though I was already a drummer in the works, that dude inspired me to save my damn money and buy my own damn kit because my parents were so damn poor. Every Christmas, every birthday, what do you want for this? What do you want for that? Drums. Yeah, that ain't happening. So he inspired me to save my money and buy my own drums, and me and Larry hooked up, and Larry bought a bass, and we decided we were going to try and catch up with this motherfucker. And I wouldn't say we did right away, but by the time FT formed and recorded their first album in our own home studio, that if you touched the microphone, you got shocked. We did it. We built our own studio. We recorded our own first album, and it was badass. We recorded more after that, but unfortunately, we lost my brother. Actually, in 2 days, it'll be 1 year my brother's been gone. And I tell you what, he was probably the most inspirational guy for me. He made me play drums. He made Larry play bass. He made us form a band and just say, fuck it, let's go for it. And that's what we did, man. We went for it, and we got some good shit out of it, man. Good stuff. Sorry about the language.
No problem. That's amazing. I'm so interested in that whole thing. And I was talking to Larry before that, that whole fictional tensions, the formation of that kind of reminds me like a little bit of Megadeth. If you listen to how they started, it reminds me a little bit of that.
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, I feel like culture-wise, I think there's some comparisons there because we really started out partying together. When I first met Sean, I had parents were divorced. We suddenly moved, and now I'm a student at Broad Ripple High School. I didn't know anybody on the north side, and it was day 3 or 4, and I had scored some pot and had a joint twisted up, and I was walking down the hallway with it in my hand. And I'd walked behind this guy once or twice before because our lockers were close. But he had a jean jacket on with a giant Iron Maiden patch on the back, Somewhere in Time. And that at the time was my favorite album. Oh, yeah. And I didn't have anybody to smoke this joint with. So I caught up with him in the hallway and asked him if he wanted to smoke out. And that just led to, that was it, man. And I think the next day he showed up to school on a moped with no intentions of going to school because Dad was at work. So he ran me back to the house, and then he went and grabbed a couple girls, and we ended up getting some liquor, and we partied. I think the daddy, John, even came home that day and caught us, and was cool as hell. And I don't know, it just kind of went from there. And that culture, it was a party culture, but that's kind of how it got started.